Hi there readers, what a beautiful day we have today. I'm sat in the garden just grasping the last bits of this shady spot to make this video today, and I'm going to do another reading from The Gifts of Imperfection by the wonderful Brené Brown. And the bit that spoke to me today, because I've had a lot of conversations about this week, is the bit about anxiety. So I'm going to be reading from guidepost number 8. If you want to press pause, go and grab your books, make yourself a cup of tea, yes, because although it's scorchy out here, nice cup of tea. So I've got mine ready. Grab your books and open on guidepost 8, page 134, and you can read along with me. I'm going to be picking out some extracts from this chapter. I'm not reading the whole thing. So this chapter is about cultivating calm and stillness, letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. And I think this is really important because lots of us feel like we're not in control of anxiety, more like it's in control of us, and it's about the things that happen to us. But what I love about this bit is Brené talks about really simple actions that everybody can start putting into practice to let go of that as a lifestyle and really cultivate this calm and stillness. So she says, after this research first emerged, I remember that I made a beeline for my therapist's office. I knew my life was out of balance, and I wanted more of what I was learning about in my study. I also wanted to figure out why I was having dizzy spells whenever I got really anxious and stressed out. I would actually get lightheaded and the room would start to spin. A couple of times I literally fell over. The dizziness was new, the anxiety was not. Before I started learning about wholehearted living, I'd always been able to manage the competing priorities, the family demands, and the unrelenting pressure of academic life. In many ways, anxiety was a constant in my life. But as I started developing an awareness about wholehearted living, it's as if my body said, I'm going to help you embrace this new way of living by making it very difficult for you to ignore anxiety. If I became too anxiety-ridden, I'd literally have to sit down or risk falling. I remember telling Diana, my therapist, I can't function this way any longer. I really can't. She replied, I know. I see that. What do you think you need? I thought about it for a second and I said, I need a way to stay on my feet when I'm really anxious. She just sat there, nodding her head and waiting like therapists do, waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, it dawned on me, oh, I get it. I can't function this way. I can't function in this much anxiety anymore. I don't need to figure out a way to keep going with this level of anxiety. I need to figure out how to be less anxious. The people I interviewed weren't anxiety free or even anxiety averse. They were anxiety aware. They were committed to a way of living where anxiety was a reality but not a lifestyle. They did this by cultivating calm and stillness in their lives and making these practices the norm. Calm and stillness may sound like the same things, but I learned that they are different and that we need both. So she goes on to talk about the differences between these two. I just want to point out that bit where she says, I had always been able to manage the competing priorities, the family demands, and the unrelenting pressure of academic life. In many ways, anxiety was a constant in my life. It's funny, isn't it? Because she wasn't managing them. That's the whole point. She thought she was and just got used to the anxiety until the anxiety became too much and she got the wake-up call with the dizzy spells. She goes on to talk about the calmness. There is a section that absolutely speaks volumes to me, so I'm just going to share that bit with you. So it's on page 136, just near the bottom. If we choose to heal with calm, we have to commit to practicing calm. Small things matter. For example, before we respond, we can count to 10, or give ourselves permission to say, I'm not sure, I need to think about this some more. It's also extremely effective to identify the emotions that are the most likely to spark your reactivity and then practice non-reactive responses. She goes on to say, unless we had calm modelled by our parents and grew up practicing it, it's unlikely that it will be our default response to anxious or emotionally volatile situations. For me, breathing is the best place to start. Just taking a breath before I respond slows me down and immediately starts spreading calm. Sometimes I actually think to myself, I'm dying to freak out here. Do I have enough information to freak out? Will freaking out help? The answer is always no. This is important because these things take practice, so you need to know where to start with your practice. It's really easy to say, practice calm, practice stillness, but how does that happen? And these points are really important in terms of taking what's in this book into your daily lives. She talks about this, the importance of stillness, and so this is to highlight the difference between calm and stillness, and just about cultivating that time in your day to be still. From meditation and prayer to regular periods of quiet reflection and alone time, the research participants spoke about the necessity of quieting their bodies and minds as a way to feel less anxious and overwhelmed. She talks about how meditation was for her and how challenging she found it. And I have this conversation all of the time. People think they can't meditate. Their restless mind is always going off, thinking of things. And you know what? That's okay. This takes practice. The definition of stillness that emerged from the data. Stillness is not about focusing on nothingness, it's about creating a clearing. It's opening up an emotionally clutter-free space and allowing ourselves to feel and think and dream and question. What does that look like for you, creating that emotionally clutter-free space? It might be exercise, it might involve moving your body, in which case it's not still, but she does explain later in her Get Going section at the end. For her, it's walking alone outside. She puts, it's not technically still, but it's an emotional opening for me. There's no right or wrong. That's what this proves. There's no right or wrong. You can do this in a way that suits you, especially when you're first learning and you're first practicing these skills. Then we need to consider why we don't do this. And she hits the nail on the head, because she identifies the barrier to stillness is fear. And it can be big, big fear. If we stop long enough to create a quiet emotional clearing, the truth of our lives will invariably catch up with us. We convince ourselves that if we stay busy enough and keep moving, reality won't be able to keep up. So we stay in front of the truth about how tired and scared and confused and overwhelmed we sometimes feel. Of course, the irony is that the thing that's wearing us down is trying to stay out in front of feeling worn down. Lastly, the little quote she says about calmness and stillness. They're a potent medicine for general sleeplessness and lack of energy, and that is a #1 reason for creating those in your life. I hope that was useful, and I hope you enjoyed that section of the book. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Bye.